A lot of my work is based in the Black radical tradition in the United States, which has looked at the ordinary institutions of the United States and seen strongly fascist tendencies within them. I mean, we live in a country with the world's highest incarceration rate, and Black Americans are a minority population that has been targeted for enslavement and other horrors. Has one of the highest incarcerated, maybe the highest incarceration rate of the world of any ethnic group outside Uyghur Muslims. Right. So there are various features of our society that are sort of ready for this. Toni Morrison in 1995 gave a Howard address called "Racism and Fascism," talking about this. We've kept fascism located on our sort of directed in our police force, which Black Lives Matter has drawn our attention to, but it sort of hasn't sort of like expanded outside of aimed at a minority. It's mainly been aimed at minority and poor populations. Mm-hmm. So we had that in place. And then what we've seen over the past 2 decades is we've seen elite failure. So we've seen that paves the road for a positive social change as well as negative social change. It paves the road for people to come and say the elites have failed you, mm-hmm. and be right. Right. And and when we fail to have accountability for elite failure, it sets the agenda for a demagogue to come and say, look, you need a strong hand who's going to punish the elites, who's going to make sure, who's going to roll things back because to make sure that you don't lose your country to them, meaning the minorities, the
mm-hmm.
leftists. So all of that is set up.
If you create a recipe for fascism, what would the ingredients be?
The ingredients would be minority populations that you could blame the troubles of the country on. Elites that have failed you, that have clearly and manifestly been self-dealing. You'd have there are fascist movements all across the world right now, and there have been for quite some time, and they're linked. These ethno-nationalist movements in India, say, right. Brazil, we have a fascist movement. They're sort of linked. So you look for those links to international fascist movements, and you look for massive inequality, because when you have massive inequality, first you have what I would call, Toni Morrison called it fascist solutions to national problems. She said the United States is an addiction to fascist solutions to national problems.
What a line! What a line!
So yeah, so when you have massive inequality, then you need a militarized police force that has a police response to massive inequality. You can have. It's best to have a past where where you had a dominant majority that controlled the cultural institutions, that controlled everything, and so you can blame the problems of the present on the loss of that past.
So, okay, I'm just thinking about fascist movements throughout history and the obvious one, Mussolini. Who are the minorities under Mussolini?
Right. So Mussolini didn't. Fascism in Italy doesn't start out. It starts out colonialist. The minorities are the Ethiopians, and it was Black Americans who called attention to this fact. Right. It was Black Americans who linked what was happening in Ethiopia to the racial struggle in the United States. So it was colonialism, and in the case of Mussolini, it was the colonial war in Africa. It was also colonialism in the case of Hitler. It was the desire, as Du Bois, as black writers such as Césaire and Du Bois clearly saw. Hitler bemoaned the loss of the African colonies in World War I. So it was the loss of colonies, the racial domination. Now, what you have in the United States is internal domination. Mm-hmm. You have internal colonialism. You have internal colonies. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to regard what's happening in the kinds of cities that Trump wants to see have the vote removed from disenfranchised. I think it's fair, or if you look at what happened with Flint, Michigan, and in general with the Emergency Manager Act, the kind of seizing control of Black majority cities, I think we can clearly talk of internal colonization in the United States. So we can see the same dialectic. With European fascism, it was external colonization. It was the desire to dominate Africa. Here, it's the desire to dominate our internal populations.
Is that sort of the future of fascism? I guess the question is, what is the future of fascism? How is it evolving? I mean, obviously, media today is very different than the radio waves, but
media is deeply involved.
Exactly. So
in each case, I
live on YouTube. I'm aware.
Right. So these media, when you look at the Nazi use of radio, you see that the propaganda, which is central to any kind of fascist movement, mass spreading of conspiracy theories, mass spreading of just destruction of truth. They're going to use whatever media resources they have, and now is no different. It's just that we have different media.
So what does the future of fascism look like? Including this new way of spreading propaganda with tech companies just like looking the other way and not even caring or facilitating it.
Exactly. So we've got sort of a much more just as radio facilitated Hitler's speeches and mass propaganda in ways that was a radio and film. Now we have new media that spreads conspiracy theories incredibly quickly. And whenever you look at a genocide right now, not whenever, I'm sure that actually what's happening in China is not based on this. But if you look at Myanmar, if you look at a number of the situations we faced, WhatsApp, a lot of the media is involved in spreading conspiracy theories. So we have that. We have, I think, an interlinked ethno-nationalist movements. Fascism looks different in every country. It's not the same story in every country. American fascism will look very different than Italian fascism or German fascism. But we have these links. Right now, I think if you look at the disenfranchisement that's happening in Georgia, that's happening in a number of states across the country in reaction to the 2020 elections and Democratic successes, I think you're seeing they're drawing both on the U.S. past, but also Hungary and Poland.
Interesting. How so?
Because in those countries, they've mastered the elections. They've gerrymandered. They've dominated the judiciary. You could see with Donald Trump's response to the judiciary sort of remaining fairly firm in response to the attempted coup. He was sort of shocked because that didn't happen in Hungary. That didn't happen in Poland. The judges sort of they replaced the judiciary quickly, and it quickly became a loyalist judiciary. I think what we've seen here is it's going to be not that hard to dismantle. It's going to be harder than in Hungary and Poland, and harder than in Brazil. But it's not by any means impossible to dismantle the press, the media, the press, the judiciary, the voting system, and so we've got these international techniques. Poland borrowed from Hungary. I mean, Viktor Orban now has total power in Hungary. And also you see a kind of fascism without the violence right now. You see a fascism without, like Hungary, Viktor Orban has complete, total one-person control of the country. And he's done that using the civil courts, using enormous fines and fees. So I think with a huge militarized police force, used to dealing with our problems with inequality, with one of the two major parties ready to become a cult of the leader, just looking for the next one, and already signaling everything that needs to be signaled about its authoritarian tendencies, and with the massive wealth inequality and corruption.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.